Let her sleep on this couch. Those 5 words instantly destroyed the 67 years I thought I understood what family love was. And the worst part, they were spoken by my own son's wife, assigning rooms in the house I had paid for, as if I were a homeless dog. But wait, because what happened after I heard that sentence didn't just change my life, but the life of my entire family forever. And when you learn about the revenge I quietly prepared, you will understand why you should never, ever underestimate a grandmother who has nothing left to lose. If you want to know how a 67-year-old woman became her manipulative daughter-in-law's worst nightmare, subscribe now, because this story is going to give you chills. My name is Hope. I'm 67 years old, and what I'm about to tell you happened 3 months ago in a Florida vacation house I rented for $500. Money that came from my savings from the pension I've religiously saved since I was widowed, dreaming of moments just like this. A perfect week with my son Robert, my daughter-in-law Patricia, and my 2 grandchildren. What I didn't know was that to Patricia, I wasn't the grandmother who deserved respect. I was just the wallet that paid for everything. I was there hiding behind the kitchen door like a thief in my own reservation, listening as Patricia explained the room assignments to her mother over the phone. Her mom in the master, her dad in the second, the kids in the back, and let her sleep on the couch. She didn't even have the respect to say my name. My heart felt like it was going to burst out of my chest. I felt the strength leave my legs, and I had to grab onto the doorframe to keep from collapsing right there. Me, the woman who had worked double shifts at the factory to pay for Robert's education, the one who sold my own gold earrings to help him start his business. I was going to sleep on the couch in the house I was paying for. But what came next completely shattered me. Oh, Mom, you'll see Hope won't say a thing. She's one of those old ladies who does anything to be liked. She paid for the whole house without anyone asking her. Can you believe it? Women of her generation are like that, submissive. They put up with anything as long as they don't cause trouble. Old submissive. As if my 67 years of life, my sacrifices, my dignity were worth nothing. In that moment, something inside me broke. It wasn't just my heart. It was the image I had of myself as the understanding mother-in-law, the grandmother who always says yes, who never causes problems. That night, while they toasted on the terrace with the wine I had bought celebrating their free vacation, I stood alone in that kitchen, looking out at the sea. And for the first time in 3 years since my husband died, I didn't cry from sadness. I cried from pure rage. Robert, my Robert. Where was he while his wife was humiliating me? On the terrace shouting, "Honey, the Wi-Fi is perfect for my video conferences." Video conferences during the family vacation his mother had paid for. But Patricia made a mistake that night. A mistake that would cost her everything she had built by manipulating my son. Because when you think you have someone completely under your thumb, you get comfortable, you get careless. And careless women leave their cell phones unlocked in places where submissive old ladies can find them. What I discovered on that phone in the early hours of the morning didn't just confirm that Patricia was worse than I imagined. She was a monster who had been planning to destroy me completely. But what she didn't know was that she had just awakened the wrong beast. Because when a woman my age decides she's done being submissive, she doesn't do it quietly. And when she decides it's time for justice, oh my God, justice is coming. What I found on that cell phone chilled me to the bone and set in motion the most perfect revenge you can imagine. To understand how I ended up in that kitchen crying with rage while my daughter-in-law gave away my house, I have to tell you the story of a woman who believed that unconditional love always comes back multiplied. A woman who was wrong. My story with Robert began when I was just 23 and was left a widow with an 8-month-old baby. Robert's father died in a construction accident, and I was left alone with a child, nothing but debt, and a broken heart. Do you know what it's like to get up every day at 4 a.m. to get to the textile factory, to work 8 hours sewing school uniforms, then run to Mrs. Linda's house to pick up your son and take him to your second job cleaning offices until 10 at night? I did that for 18 years straight. Robert was my world, my reason for living. Every dollar I earned had his name on it. When he turned 5 and told me, "Mommy, I want to be an engineer like Peter's dad," I promised him he would be, even if I had to work myself to death. and I kept that promise. I sold his father's wedding ring to pay for his private high school. I sold my gold earrings, the only ones I had, for his university textbooks. I worked Saturdays and Sundays to pay for his engineering supplies. When he graduated with honors from a top engineering university, I was in the front row, my dress mended 3 times, but my chest swelling with more pride than anyone in the country. Robert was a good son, hardworking, respectful, loving. After graduating, he got a job at a construction firm, and 2 years later, he came home with sparkling eyes telling me, "Mom, I want to start my own company. I have a partner. We have the projects. We just need the initial capital." Initial capital, I had exactly $1,200 saved after 20 years of work. I gave him all of it, no questions asked, no conditions, because that's what families do. When a son has a dream, his mother makes it possible. Robert's company grew. Within 5 years, he had contracts worth over $500,000 a year. He bought his house, his truck. He started dressing well, and I was still in my same little 2-bedroom house, but I was happy. Happy because my sacrifice had been worth it. Until Patricia arrived. I met her one Sunday after church. Robert introduced her to me in the church courtyard. She was nervous, pretty well dressed. "Mom, this is Patricia. She's a manager, works at a bank." You could tell he was in love. His eyes shone in a way I hadn't seen since he was a little boy. Patricia was kind to me from the first day, maybe too kind. Always with perfect smiles, always saying the right things. Hope Robert is so lucky to have such a hard-working mother. Hope you can see all the love you put into raising him. Hope Robert tells me you made so many sacrifices for him. At first, I thought it was just good manners. Later, I understood it was a strategy. I ignored the first signs because I didn't want to see what was happening. Like when Robert started canceling our Sunday lunches because Patricia had family commitments, or when he stopped calling me every day as he had for 30 years. "It's just that Patricia says married men need their space," he would explain almost apologetically. Space, I wasn't taking his space. I just wanted to continue being his mother. But Patricia was smart, very smart. She never attacked me directly, never disrespected me to my face. She was more subtle, more poisonous. Like when she organized family dinners and forgot to invite me. "Oh, Hope, I'm so sorry. It completely slipped my mind to call you. There were so few of us, I didn't think." But she would invite her mother, her sisters, her aunts. I always found out later when Robert would tell me what a great time they had, or when she started changing the decor in Robert's house. "Patricia has great taste, Mom. The house looks so much more modern." The photos of me and Robert when he was a boy disappeared from the refrigerator. The pillows I had knitted for his sofa were replaced with more elegant ones. Little by little, my presence was erased from my own son's house. The hardest blow came when the grandchildren were born, Jacob and Sarah. My loves, my reasons for living after I was widowed. Patricia used them as a weapon. The children need a routine, Hope. They can't be visiting so much. The kids get confused with so many different rules. It's better if they only come on weekends. Weekends became once a month. Once a month became special occasions. Special occasions became whenever we can. And Robert, my Robert, just went along with it. Every time I said something, he would reply, "Mom, Patricia is right. She studied these things. She knows how to manage a modern family." A modern family. Since when did respecting your parents go out of style? But what really broke my heart was the day I turned 65. I waited all morning for Robert to arrive with the children. I had made his favorite stew. I had bought a small cake from the bakery. I had set the table beautifully with the tablecloth I embroidered when he was little. Robert arrived alone at 8 o'clock at night, rushing with a guilty look on his face. "Sorry, Mom, the day got complicated. Patricia organized a family meal and—" "A family meal without me?" I asked, and I saw his expression crumble. "Well, it was also Patricia's cousin's birthday, and they decided to combine them, and—" That's when I understood. I wasn't family anymore. I was the inconvenient obligation that had to be dealt with when there was spare time. That night, alone in my kitchen, eating cold stew and looking at my untouched cake, I made a decision. I would not beg for love. I would not plead for attention. I would maintain my dignity and wait for Robert to remember who was there for him when his world fell apart. 3 years passed since that birthday. 3 years in which I tried to be the perfect mother-in-law, the grandmother who doesn't bother anyone, the woman who settles for the crumbs of affection she's given. Until that invitation to Florida came, which I thought was the golden opportunity to get my family back. How foolish I was. But that night, hiding behind the door, listening to Patricia call me a submissive old lady, I understood something that changed me forever. I hadn't lost an ungrateful son. I had raised a good man who was being manipulated by a calculating woman. And if Patricia thought she could keep playing with me, as she had for 5 years, she was about to find out just how wrong she was. Because what I found on her cell phone that night not only confirmed her intentions, it showed me how far she was willing to go to take away the only thing I had left, my home. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon while I was watering my geraniums in my small backyard. It was Patricia, and her voice sounded strangely cheerful, almost affectionate. "Hope, how are you? Look, I have a wonderful idea, and I wanted to run it by you." Run it by me. That word made me feel important for the first time in years. Patricia never consulted me on anything. She didn't even tell me when family plans changed. "Tell me, dear," I replied, and even now I'm ashamed to admit the hope that filled my voice. "I was thinking, it's time for the whole family to have a vacation together. The kids are growing up so fast, and well, you've been looking a little tired lately. What do you think about all of us going to the beach like in the movies? A big house right on the water, all of us together making up for lost time." My heart started beating faster. Did she say making up for lost time? Had Patricia finally realized how distant we'd become? "Oh dear, that sounds wonderful," I said, my voice breaking just a little. "It's been so long since we've had real family time." "Exactly. That's why I thought of you first. Robert is so busy with work, and I'm so busy with the kids that sometimes we forget how important it is to be united, especially now that my mom is so lonely since she was widowed last year." Her mom. That should have been a red flag, but I was so excited about the idea of a whole week with Robert and my grandchildren that I didn't process what she'd said. "And where were you thinking?" I asked, already imagining myself building sandcastles with Jacob and Sarah. "Well, I was looking, and Florida has some beautiful vacation houses with private pools, ocean views, a yard for the kids to play in. It would be perfect. The problem is—" She paused, and like a fool I took the bait. "What's the problem, dear?" "Well, with the kids' school expenses and the expansion of Robert's business, we're a little tight this month. But don't worry, we'll figure something out. Maybe instead of a week, we could just go for a long weekend to a simpler hotel." A simpler hotel. After I had already dreamed of that house on the beach, of waking up to the sound of the waves and watching my grandchildren run on the sand. "How much would the house you mentioned cost?" I asked, though I already knew where this conversation was going. "Oh, Hope, I don't want to worry you with that. It's about $3,500 for the week, but it's fully equipped. It has 5 bedrooms, a full kitchen, a terrace with an ocean view, even cleaning service included. But like I said, don't worry, we'll find something more affordable." $3,500. Exactly what I had saved in my emergency account. The money I had scraped together dollar by dollar for 3 years, saving everything I could from my pension just in case. And that's where Patricia showed how clever she was at manipulation. "You know what, Hope? Let's just forget it. I don't want you to feel obligated at all. Robert and I will find a way to take a vacation later when things are better financially. The kids will understand." The kids will understand. My grandchildren, who had asked me just last week when we were going to the beach together, were they going to understand that their grandmother hadn't made the effort to take them? "No, wait, Patricia," I said quickly. "Let me think about it." But there was nothing to think about. In my mind, I was already seeing Jacob learning to swim in that private pool, Sarah collecting seashells on the beach. Robert relaxed for the first time in years, remembering why he loved his mom so much. "You know what, dear? I'll pay for the house." There was a silence on the other end of the line that lasted only a second, but now remembering it, it feels eternal. A silence in which I'm sure Patricia smiled like a shark that had just smelled blood. "Really, Hope? Oh no, I can't let you do that. That's so much money." "Dear, that's what I work for, so my family can be happy. Besides, it's been years since I've treated myself like this. It will be my gift to all of us. But Hope, are you sure? I just don't want you to feel— I'm absolutely sure, I interrupted her. In fact, I'm excited to be able to do it. It's been so long since we've organized something like this as a family. Oh, how exciting. The kids are going to be so happy. And Robert is going to be so grateful. He always says you're the best mom in the world. Robert says that— My heart swelled with joy. Maybe things weren't as bad as I thought. Maybe this was the opportunity we had been waiting for to become the close-knit family we used to be. Let me just book the house right now before we lose it, Patricia said urgently. Can you give me your card details? I should have said I would make the reservation myself. I should have asked for more details. I should have paid attention to how quickly she accepted my offer. But I was so excited, so full of hope after years of feeling excluded that I gave her all my information without a second thought. All set. Hope it's booked from August 15th to the 22nd. A whole week of family. It's going to be perfect. How exciting, dear. And does Robert know yet? I'm going to tell him as soon as he gets home from work. He's going to be so happy that you made this possible. That night, I went to bed feeling like the luckiest woman in the world. I had invested my savings in something worth more than any amount of money— quality time with my family. A whole week where we could talk, laugh, and remember why we love each other. I dreamed of breakfasts on the terrace overlooking the sea, of Robert telling me how the business was going while we had coffee, of Patricia and me cooking together for the whole family, of my grandchildren running towards me shouting "Grandma" on that perfect beach. How naive I was. Because what I didn't know was that Patricia already had everything planned. She already knew exactly what that week would be like, who would sleep where, and what my place would be in her vacation house. What I also didn't know was that Tuesday's call had been no accident, and that what Patricia had in store for me was much worse than sleeping on a couch. The flight to Florida was the last time I felt truly happy on that vacation. Jacob and Sarah were so excited, asking me every 5 minutes if we were there yet, if the pool was big, if we were going to see turtles in the ocean. Robert looked relaxed for the first time in months, and even Patricia seemed to be in a good mood. "Hope you were so smart to choose this house," she told me as the plane descended. "The kids are going to have precious memories of this vacation." I smiled, my heart full. I had finally done something right. I had finally managed to give something valuable to my family. But from the moment we arrived at the house, something felt off. The house was beautiful, I won't deny it, exactly as Patricia had described it. White modern, with a huge terrace that led directly to the turquoise sea, a garden with palm trees, and a pool that sparkled under the Caribbean sun. It was the paradise I had imagined in my dreams. The problem wasn't the house. The problem was how Patricia acted from the second she stepped inside. "Kids, come here. I'll show you your room," she yelled, taking the keys from the driver and walking in as if she owned the place. "Robert, honey, bring the heaviest bags. Hope you don't worry about a thing. Just relax." Relax. I wanted to participate. I wanted to see the rooms, choose where I would stay, explore the kitchen where I planned to make them special breakfasts all week. But Patricia had already taken complete control. "Look how beautiful," she said, opening doors and windows as if it were her own home. "Robert, this is our room. Isn't it perfect? It has a walk-in closet and a private bathroom with a jacuzzi." Then she ran to another room. "Kids, come see. You have bunk beds and an incredible view of the garden." I followed her like a tourist in my own reservation, carrying my small suitcase, waiting for her to assign me a spot in the paradise I had paid for. "And Hope," she said finally, almost as if she had forgotten about me, "you can stay in the guest room. It's very comfortable, has its own bathroom, and it's cool because of the air conditioning." The guest room. In the house I had rented, I was the guest, but that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was realizing that the true lady of the house was neither Patricia nor me. It was Maria Patricia's mother, who arrived that same afternoon in a taxi from the airport, as if it had been planned all along. "Honey, what a beautiful house you chose," she yelled to Patricia as she hugged her. "The rooms are so spacious, and that terrace is perfect for my morning exercises." Her morning exercises? Mrs. Maria already knew where she was going to exercise in my house. "Mom, I'll show you your room. It's the master with the best ocean view," Patricia told her, and I felt like I had been slapped. The master bedroom for Patricia's mother, and where was I going to stay? Patricia, I said softly, trying not to sound annoyed in front of the children. I thought we were all going to figure this out together. I didn't know your mom was coming. Oh, hope I forgot to mention. My mom is going through a really tough time since she was widowed, and I thought this vacation would do her a lot of good. You understand, right? Women our age need family support. Women our age. Maria was 62. I was 67, but apparently she deserved the master bedroom, and I deserved the guest room. Of course, dear, I replied, because what else could I say? The kids were there running around excitedly, and I didn't want to be the bitter one who ruined the first day. But Robert, my Robert said nothing, not a word of protest, not a, "Mom, are you comfortable with this arrangement?" Nothing. During that first afternoon, while I unpacked in my guest room, I could hear the voices of Patricia and her mother organizing the whole week as if I didn't exist. Tomorrow, we can go to the historical site, but early to avoid the heat. Wednesday is perfect for the snorkeling tour. The kids will love it. Friday, we can have a special dinner on the terrace. I brought my secret ceviche recipe. Her secret recipe. In the kitchen I was paying for, I went down to the living room hoping to join the family planning. But when I arrived, Patricia and her mother had already organized everything. Hope, are you settled in? Look, we have the whole week planned out. It's going to be amazing. They showed me a handwritten list with all the activity schedules, even the menus for each day. Everything decided without consulting me, as if I were a last-minute guest on my own paid vacation. "And how can I help?" I asked, trying to sound useful. "Oh, don't you worry about a thing," Patricia told me with that smile I was starting to hate. "You just relax and enjoy. Maria and I have it all organized." Maria and I, as if they were the hostesses, and I was the guest who had to be grateful for being included. That night during the dinner, they had prepared with the ingredients I had paid for. I had to sit at the edge of the table while Patricia and her mother occupied the head seats like the true matriarchs of the family. Robert was absorbed in his phone answering work emails. The kids were eating excitedly, talking about everything they wanted to do the next day, and I felt like an invisible ghost at my own table. "Hope you can stay and rest at the house tomorrow if you like," Maria told me with false consideration. "The tour of the historical site is very tiring for, well, you understand. For what? For old ladies like me." "No, thank you, I'm going," I replied with more firmness than I had used in years. "I've always wanted to see the ancient pyramids." Patricia and her mother exchanged a look that I didn't like at all. "Of course, Hope, as you wish," Patricia said. "I'm just warning you that it's a lot of walking under the sun. As if I were so fragile I couldn't walk. As if I hadn't worked on my feet for 8 hours a day for 30 years of my life." That night, lying in my guest room while I listened to the laughter of Patricia and her mother on the terrace enjoying the wine I had paid for, I understood that I had made the biggest mistake of my life. I hadn't organized a family vacation. I had paid $3,500 to be humiliated in high definition in front of the Caribbean Sea. But what came the next day made me realize that this humiliation was just beginning. And when Patricia thought I was asleep and I overheard her phone conversation with her sister, I knew that it had all been a trap from the beginning. The second day in Florida was when I understood that I hadn't come on vacation. I had come to witness my own destruction as the matriarch of my family. It all started at the historical site. Despite Patricia's warnings about how tiring the tour would be for me, I was the first one on the bus and the last one to get tired walking among the pyramids. While Maria complained about the heat every 5 minutes and Patricia looked for shade to take perfect selfies, I listened to the guide explain the history with the curiosity of a child. "Grandma, did you know the ancient people were super smart?" Jacob asked me, taking my sweaty hand as we walked towards the main pyramid. "Of course, my love, and they were also very brave," I replied, carrying him when he got tired, even though Patricia yelled from behind, "Hope, don't carry him. You'll hurt your back." Hurt my back. Me who had carried Robert until he was 5 years old while working double shifts. But the real humiliation began that night when we returned to the house exhausted and happy. The kids had fallen asleep on the way. Robert carried them to their room, and I headed to mine to take a shower and wash off the day's dust. When I opened my bedroom door, I froze. All my things were packed in my suitcase, placed on the bed, as if I were an unwanted guest who had to leave. "Patricia!" I shouted from my room, my heart pounding so hard I thought I was going to have a heart attack. She appeared at the door with that fake smile I knew so well, but this time with a glint in her eyes that sent shivers down my spine. "Oh, Hope, I'm so sorry I forgot to tell you. My cousin Jessica and her husband arrived as a surprise, and they urgently need a room. They're on their honeymoon. Can you imagine I couldn't say no?" Her cousin. In my vacation house, and I had to give up my room for strangers. "But Patricia," I said, trying to stay calm, "where am I going to sleep?" "Oh, don't worry. The sofa in the living room is super comfortable. It even has memory foam cushions. You'll be better off than in any five-star hotel." The sofa. At 67 years old, after paying $3,500, after working my whole life to give my family everything they were sending me to sleep on the sofa as if I were a beggar. "And can't they stay in another room?" I asked, feeling my voice break. "What other room Hope my mom is in the master we're in the second the kids are in the third? There are no more rooms." Yes, there were more rooms. There was a small study in the back with a sofa bed, but clearly that was reserved for storing Patricia and her mother's things as if it were their personal closet. "Patricia, I paid for this house," I said for the first time with firmness, and I saw her face change for a second. "Yes, Hope, and we all thank you very much for it. That's exactly why we don't want you to worry about anything. We'll take care of making sure everyone is comfortable. You just relax." "Relax on the living room sofa." Robert appeared at that moment sweaty and tired from carrying sleeping children. "What's going on here?" he asked, seeing our tense faces. "Nothing, honey," Patricia told him immediately. "I was just explaining to your mom that Jessica and Richard arrived by surprise, and we need to rearrange the rooms." "Oh, perfect," Robert said, without even asking for details. "Have you had dinner yet? I'm starving." Perfect. He thought it was perfect for his mother to sleep on the sofa while strangers occupied her room. That night was the longest of my life. I lay on that sofa in my cotton nightgown, covering myself with a thin blanket Patricia had found in the cleaning closet, listening to the laughter of my whole family, enjoying their rooms in the house I had paid for. I heard the kids chatting excitedly in their room about everything they had seen that day. I heard Robert and Patricia talking quietly in their air-conditioned room. I heard Maria moving around in the master bedroom that should have been mine. And there I was on the living room sofa, feeling every spring dig into my back, wondering how I had become so insignificant in my own family. But what truly destroyed me happened at 2 a.m. Patricia came down to the kitchen for water and didn't realize I was awake. She spoke on the phone in a low voice, but in that house you could hear everything. "Linda, you won't believe how easy it was," she said to her sister with a laugh that chilled my blood. "The old lady paid for everything without asking any questions. $3,500, can you believe it? And now she doesn't even dare to complain that I sent her to the sofa." Old lady. The old lady who paid for everything. No, she won't say anything. She's one of those mothers-in-law who does anything to be liked. Robert is completely on my side now he doesn't defend her like he used to. Honestly, I almost feel sorry for how desperate she is for attention. Desperate for attention. For wanting to be treated with respect on the vacation I myself was paying for. I swear it's pathetic, Linda. Today at the pyramids, she started carrying Jacob as if she were a young grandmother just to get attention. Robert was even embarrassed. Robert was embarrassed of me for carrying my own grandson. But what came next was the dagger that pierced my heart. The best part is that now that I've confirmed she's this submissive, we can proceed with the plan I told you about. Robert is almost convinced that she needs, more specialized care. He says he's noticed she's more forgetful lately, more frail. Plan what plan? And what specialized care were they talking about? Yes, sis, in 6 months tops, we'll have her in a place where she's well taken care of and we can live peacefully without her always being in our business. At that moment, I understood everything. It wasn't just about humiliating me on a vacation. It was about getting me out of Robert's life forever. I lay there on that sofa crying silently as Patricia went back up to her room in my house, planning how to put me in a nursing home to have my son all to herself. For the first time in my life, I felt like I wanted to die. I felt like I had nothing left to fight for, that I had raised a son who saw me as a burden, that I had given my entire life for a family that considered me a problem to be solved. But then something happened inside me, something I hadn't felt since I was 23 years old and was left a widow with a baby in my arms. Rage. Pure rage that burned inside me like volcanic lava. No. I was not going to let them send me to a nursing home as if I were trash. I was not going to allow Patricia to destroy everything I had built with so much sacrifice. And I was definitely not going to continue being the submissive old lady who settled for crumbs. Because what Patricia didn't know was that night, while she slept peacefully believing she had me under control, I found her phone forgotten in the kitchen. And what I discovered there gave me the weapons to destroy her perfect world. At 4 a.m, when I could no longer pretend to be asleep on the sofa that had become my torture bed, I decided to get up for some water. My back ached as if I had been beaten, and my eyes were swollen from crying in silence. The house was completely quiet. The only sounds were the distant snoring of Maria from the master bedroom, which should have been mine, and the waves of the sea, which now sounded like a mockery of my suffering. I walked barefoot to the kitchen, trying not to make a sound in my own vacation house when I saw it. Patricia's cell phone lying on the kitchen counter, the screen glowing. She had forgotten it after her late-night call with her sister Linda. Normally, I would never have touched someone else's phone. I was raised with values, with respect for others' privacy. But after hearing her call me old and pathetic after learning they had a plan to put me in a home I had no dignity left to protect, I picked up the phone with trembling hands. The screen was unlocked. Patricia had been so careless in her triumph that she hadn't even set a password. The first messages I saw were with her sister Linda, and what I read confirmed that I wasn't crazy. I wasn't imagining things. It had all been calculated from the beginning. Linda, did you convince her to pay yet? Patricia so easy. I told her it was to bring the family together, and she took the bait. $500 straight from her savings. Linda, ha ha ha, you're evil. And Robert doesn't suspect a thing, Patricia, not at all. He's so caught up in his business problems, he doesn't even notice what's happening in his own house. Business problems. What problems? Robert had always told me everything was going great. I kept reading, and each message was a deeper stab. Patricia. The best part is, I already have the psychologist on my side. I told him my mother-in-law is getting very forgetful, that sometimes she doesn't recognize the grandkids, that the other day she forgot to turn off the gas stove. Linda, is that true? Patricia, please, the old lady is sharper than you and me combined, but the doctor doesn't know that. I already have the psychological report that says she needs constant supervision. A psychological report. She had fabricated a fake psychological report to justify putting me in a home. My hands trembled so much I almost dropped the phone. But there was more. So much more. I went into her messages with someone named Dr. Ruiz, and what I found took my breath away. Dr. Ruiz, Mrs. Patricia, I have the commitment papers ready. With the psychological report you sent me, there will be no problem arguing mental incapacity. Patricia, perfect. And what about the property issue, Dr. Ruiz? Your husband, as the sole heir, can manage all of his mother's assets. The house, the bank accounts, everything passes to his administration immediately. My house. They wanted my house. The little 2-bedroom house I had worked 30 years for, that I had paid for dollar by dollar with the sweat of my brow, for which I had even sacrificed meals to not miss a single payment. With my eyes full of angry tears, I kept digging through that phone that had become my family's Pandora's box. I found a conversation with a lawyer named Martinez that chilled my blood. Lawyer Martinez, Patricia, the numbers don't lie. Robert's company is $200,000 in debt. If they don't pay in the next 3 months, they'll face foreclosure. Patricia. What if we sell my mother-in-law's house? Lawyer Martinez. With the $180,000 it's worth, you'd cover almost the whole debt. but you need her to sign voluntarily or for Robert to have legal power over her assets. $200,000 in debt. Robert was on the verge of ruin, and I didn't even know. Patricia didn't just want to take my home out of spite. She needed me out of the way to save her own assets with my sacrifice. But what I found next showed me the true extent of this woman's betrayal. Photos. Hundreds of photos in a hidden folder. Photos of Patricia with a man who was not Robert. Kissing, hugging in elegant restaurants, in hotels, in situations that left no room for doubt. And the messages with that man saved under the name work insurance. Work insurance. Love. We're almost there. As soon as they commit the old lady and sell her house, Robert can file for bankruptcy. We lose the company, but we save the money. Patricia. And then what work insurance? Then I divorce my wife, you divorce Robert, and we go live in Costa Rica with the clean money. It couldn't be real. It couldn't be that my daughter-in-law was planning not only to steal my house and put me in a home, but also to destroy Robert financially and emotionally, to run off with her lover. I stood there in that kitchen at 5 a.m. reading message after message that shattered every illusion I had about my family. Patricia wasn't just manipulative. She was a professional con artist who had seen Robert and me as the perfect victims. But there was something else, something that gave me the first spark of hope in days. A message from just 2 hours before when Patricia thought I was asleep on the couch. Patricia Linda, tomorrow night the old lady is going to sign the papers. I'm going to tell her they're health insurance documents, but they're actually the legal power of attorney we need. Tomorrow. I had less than 24 hours before they made me sign my own civil death sentence. At that moment, standing in that kitchen, with my enemy's phone in my hands, I made the most important decision of my 67 years. I was no longer going to be the victim. Silently, I took pictures of every message, every conversation, every compromising image. My old cell phone took forever to save each screenshot, but I didn't care. I documented everything. Every betrayal, every lie, every piece of evidence that Patricia was not who she seemed to be. When I finished, I placed her phone exactly where I had found it and returned to my sofa. But I was no longer the same woman who had lain there crying 3 hours earlier. Now I was a woman with information, a woman with evidence, a woman who knew exactly what she was up against. Patricia had made the biggest mistake of her life by underestimating a woman who had raised a son alone, who had worked double shifts for 30 years, and who had survived everything life had thrown at her. That morning, while she slept peacefully, believing she had everything under control, I began to plan the most perfect revenge imaginable. Because if Patricia wanted to play dirty, she was about to discover she had chosen the wrong opponent, and that this submissive old lady had a few tricks up her sleeve she never would have imagined. The dawn of the third day in Florida found me a completely different person. I was no longer the broken woman who had gone to sleep on that sofa. I was a woman on a mission to protect what I had built over 67 years and to teach Patricia that she had picked the wrong victim. While the rest of the house slept, I was already awake, mentally organizing every piece of information I had uncovered. The photos of the lover Robert's secret debts, the plan to have me committed the forced sale of my house. It was all connected like a macabre puzzle, and I was the only one who had the complete picture. The first thing I did was act normal. When Patricia came down for breakfast with her usual fake smile, I already had the coffee made and was cooking huevos rancheros for the whole family. "Oh, Hope, how did you sleep? Did you rest well on the sofa?" she asked, with that sweet voice I now knew was pure poison. "Very well, dear." I lied with the best smile I could fake, even better than in my own bed. This sea air is so relaxing. I saw her shoulders relax. She thought she had won, that she had completely tamed me, that I was so submissive I would even thank her for making me sleep on the couch. How wrong she was. During breakfast, while Robert checked his work emails with a worried look, and the kids planned their day at the beach, I watched Patricia like a hawk studies its prey before attacking. Every gesture, every word, every look she exchanged with her mother Maria. "Robert, honey," Patricia said as she poured him more coffee, "don't you think your mom looks a little tired lately?" There it was. The first move in her plan to make me seem mentally frail. "Mom." Robert looked at me attentively for the first time in days. "Are you feeling okay? You were a little quiet last night." "I'm perfect, son," I replied firmly. "It's just that at my age I don't have the energy of you young people, but mentally I'm sharper than ever." Patricia frowned for a split second. She didn't like my answer. She expected me to confirm her narrative of weakness. "It's just that I've noticed she's a little— how can I say this without offending you? A little forgetful," Patricia insisted. "Yesterday at the historical site, she forgot where she put her purse like 3 times. A lie. I had never forgotten anything, but Robert nodded as if he remembered something. "Now that you mention it at home, too. The other day I came home and you had left the stove on, Mom." The stove on, I had never done that in my life, but I saw Patricia smile subtly. She had been planting these ideas in Robert's head for months, maybe years. At that moment, I understood the diabolical genius of her plan. It wasn't just about humiliating me on this vacation. It had been a long, slow process of making my own son doubt my mental capacity, and I had been so focused on trying to be the perfect mother-in-law that I hadn't noticed. "Robert," I said, looking him directly in the eyes, "I have never in my life left the stove on, not one day. In fact, I always check twice before I leave the house." "Of course, Hope," Patricia intervened quickly. "It was probably just a minor slip-up. It happens to all of us." But I wasn't going to let her control the narrative anymore. "Patricia, speaking of slip-ups," I said with an angelic smile, "didn't you forget your cell phone in the kitchen last night? I saw it there when I got up for water." She turned pale, completely pale. "My cell phone. Yes, right there on the counter. Good thing I put it in the drawer so it wouldn't fall. Wouldn't want someone to see it lying around." The way she looked at me at that moment confirmed that she knew that I knew, but she couldn't say anything in front of Robert and the children. I spent the rest of the day being the perfect grandmother. I played with Jacob and Sarah in the pool. I told them stories about when their dad was little. I carried them when they got tired of swimming. But mentally, I was working on my plan. Every time Patricia tried to comment on my supposed mental fragility, I proved her wrong. I remembered details she had forgotten, solved problems no one else could, and even helped Robert with some calculations for his work that he had on his phone. "Your mom was always so smart with numbers," he told Robert, and I saw how annoyed Patricia got because it didn't fit her narrative of the senile mother-in-law. In the afternoon, when Patricia went for a walk on the beach, which I knew was to talk to her lover without being overheard, I took the opportunity to approach Robert. "Son," I said while we were alone on the terrace, "how's the business going? You look very worried." His face changed immediately. That was his weak spot. "It's complicated, Mom, but I don't want you to worry. We'll get through it." "Very complicated," I insisted with the most loving voice I could muster. "It's just some temporary cash flow problems, nothing that can't be solved." Cash flow problems, $200,000 in debt, was not a cash flow problem. "And is Patricia helping you? She studied management, right?" "Yes, she supports me a lot. In fact, it was her idea not to tell you anything so you wouldn't worry." Patricia's idea, of course. Keep me in the dark so she could execute her plan without interference. That night, after everyone went to sleep, and I was once again on my torture sofa, I began the second phase of my operation. I took out my old cell phone and started researching everything I had seen on Patricia's phone. I looked up Dr. Ruiz, who had provided the fake psychological report. I looked up lawyer Martinez, who was handling Robert's fraudulent bankruptcy. With the house's slow Wi-Fi, it took me hours, but I found valuable information. Dr. Ruiz had been sanctioned twice for falsifying medical reports. Lawyer Martinez was known for helping his clients hide assets before filing for bankruptcy. Patricia hadn't just chosen me as a victim. She had assembled a whole network of professional accomplices to carry out her scam. But the most important thing I did that night was call my neighbor, Dolores. "Dolores, it's Hope. Sorry to call so late." "Hope, how's the vacation? Are you relaxing a bit?" "Dolores, I need you to do a very important favor for me, and you can't tell anyone we spoke." I explained everything, every detail of what I had discovered, every piece of evidence I had photographed. Dolores had been my friend for 20 years. I knew I could trust her. "Hope, are you sure about all this?" "I have the proof, Dolores, pictures of everything. But I need you to go to my house early tomorrow and check if there's anything strange, anything Patricia or Robert might have changed." "Of course. And Hope, be very careful. If that woman is capable of everything you're telling me, we don't know what else she's capable of." After hanging up, I lay there in the darkness of the living room, feeling for the first time in days that I wasn't completely alone. I had an ally, I had information, I had evidence. And for the first time since I arrived in Florida, I truly smiled. Patricia had made many mistakes, but the biggest one of all was believing that because I was 67, I was automatically harmless. She had underestimated the power of a woman who had raised a son during the toughest years, who had worked to exhaustion to support her family, who had survived poverty, widowhood, and all the small betrayals life throws your way. The next day, I would discover that my plan was just beginning and that Dolores's call would bring me information that would completely change the game in my favor. Dolores's call came at 8 a.m. on the fourth day while I was pretending to read a magazine on the terrace, and Patricia was preparing breakfast, singing as if she were the happiest woman in the world. She had no idea that her perfect world was about to collapse. "Hope, I found something terrible at your house," Dolores whispered over the phone, and my heart raced. "What did you find?" "Someone was going through your documents. The drawer where you keep the house papers was a mess, and Hope, something's missing. The original property title is gone." My blood ran cold. Patricia had sent someone to steal my house papers while I was in Florida. Her plan was more elaborate than I had imagined. "But don't worry," Dolores continued. "I found it. They dropped it behind the filing cabinet when they were taking it out. The clumsy fools didn't even notice." Thank God. Without those papers, I had no way of proving the house was mine if Patricia managed to make me sign some power of attorney. "Dolores, I need you to do something else. Go to the public property registry and get a certified copy of my title. Let there be an official record that I am the sole owner." "I'm on my way, and Hope, I also spoke with my friend Joaquin, the lawyer. I told him everything, and he says what they're doing is aggravated fraud, that with the evidence you have, Patricia could go to jail for up to 10 years. 10 years. The information gave me a sense of power I hadn't felt since I arrived at this cursed vacation house. After hanging up, I sat there watching Patricia serve scrambled eggs with the fakest smile in the world, knowing that in a few hours she was going to ask me to sign the papers that would take everything from me. But I already had my own plan in motion. During breakfast, while Robert played with the kids in the pool and Maria read a magazine in the garden, Patricia approached me with a look of feigned concern. "Hope, I need to talk to you about something important." Here it came, the moment I had been waiting for. "Of course, dear, tell me." "It's about your health insurance. Robert asked me to help you update some documents because the law has changed, and if we don't sign them before we go back home, you could lose all your benefits." Liar. What a professional liar. "What kind of documents?" I asked, feigning total innocence. "They're just some power of attorney forms, so Robert can handle paperwork for you when needed. You know how complicated government offices can be. It's better to have everything prepared just in case." "Just in case they put me in a nursing home," she meant to say. "And where are these papers?" "I brought them from home. I have them in my suitcase. You just need to sign them with 2 witnesses, and I've already asked my mom to help us." Her mom as a witness. How convenient. "You know what, Patricia? That sounds perfect. But first I want to consult my own lawyer just as a precaution." Her face changed completely. "Your lawyer? What for Hope? These are standard health insurance documents." "I'm getting older, dear, and at my age it's better to be cautious with everything you sign. Don't you think? But Hope, we need to sign them today. There's no time tomorrow because it's Saturday and the offices are closed." Of course, urgency is always part of a scam. Pressure the victim so they don't have time to think. "Don't worry," I said with my best naive grandmother smile. "My lawyer works on Saturdays too. I'll call him right now." And I did call him, but it wasn't my lawyer. It was Dolores's friend, Joaquin, who was already waiting for my call. "Mr. Joaquin, this is Hope Morales. My friend Dolores gave me your number." "Mrs. Morales, Dolores told me everything. Are they trying to make you sign something? Yes, right now. They say it's health insurance documents, but we know the truth. Perfect. This is what you're going to do. Joaquin explained every step of my new strategy. I wasn't just going to avoid being scammed, I was going to turn the tables completely. That afternoon, while Patricia paced around the house nervously because I hadn't signed her papers, I made my master move. I called Robert over when he was alone on the terrace. Son, sit down. I need to tell you something very important about the business. He tensed up immediately. What is it, Mom? I know you're $200,000 in debt. I know the company is bankrupt. And I know Patricia has been hiding very important information from you. He was dumbfounded, literally with his mouth open. How do you know that? Because your wife isn't as careful as she thinks. And because a mother always knows when her son is in trouble. Mom, I didn't want to worry you. Patricia said it was better. Robert, I interrupted him. Did you know that Patricia wants me to sign a legal power of attorney so you can sell my house without consulting me? What? No, Mom. The papers she told me to have you sign were for the health insurance. I saw it in his eyes. Robert wasn't completely in on the scam. Patricia had been manipulating him too. Son, tomorrow, we are going to have a family meeting. You, Patricia, her mother, and me. And you are going to hear some things about your wife that will change your life forever. Mom, you're scaring me. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the fact that your wife is not who you think she is, and that tomorrow night you will know the whole truth. That night, lying for the last time on the living room sofa in my vacation house, I smiled up at the ceiling. Patricia had spent the whole day trying to convince me to sign her papers. She had tried to pressure me, manipulate me. She had even cried fake tears, telling me she only wanted to help me. But it was too late for her, because while she thought I was a scared old lady who didn't know how to defend herself, I had been moving pieces on a chessboard she didn't even know existed. Tomorrow, on that same terrace where I had felt so humiliated, Patricia was going to discover that she had made the biggest mistake of her life. And when Robert saw the pictures of his wife with another man, when he heard the recordings of her conversations, when he learned how she had planned to destroy his own mother, then he would know who the woman he had married really was. The last day in Florida dawned perfect. Blue sky, crystal clear sea, a gentle breeze moving the curtains on the terrace. It seemed as if even the weather knew something important was going to happen that day. Patricia got up early, more nervous than ever. She had tried all night to convince me to sign her papers, even resorting to tears, saying Robert would be angry with her if we returned home without the signed insurance documents. What a great actress. She could even produce fake tears. Hope, please, she begged me during breakfast while Robert packed the suitcases. It's just 2 signatures. The lawyer says if we don't turn them in today, they'll cancel your medical policy. I already told you, dear. First, I want my lawyer to review everything. This afternoon after lunch, we'll have the meeting you suggested. I saw her exchange desperate glances with her mother Maria. Their perfect plan was falling apart, and they didn't know why. At 4 in the afternoon, as the sun began to set, painting the sky in golden colors, I called the whole family to the terrace. Family, I said with a firm voice, I need to talk to all of you about something very important before we go back home tomorrow. Robert sat next to me, Patricia and her mother across from us. The kids were watching cartoons in their room. It was the perfect moment. Patricia, you said I needed to sign some health insurance documents, right? Yes, hope so. You don't lose your benefits. And you said they were standard documents, that it was no big deal to sign them. Exactly. I took out a folder I had prepared that morning. A folder with all the evidence I had collected. Then you won't mind if I read exactly what these papers say, will you? She turned pale but nodded, because she had no other choice. These are not health insurance documents, Patricia. They are a full legal power of attorney that would give Robert total control over my house, my bank accounts, and would allow him to commit me to any institution he deems necessary. Robert jumped in his chair. What, Patricia? What is my mom talking about? Robert, calm down, Patricia said with a trembling voice. There must be some confusion. There is no confusion, I interrupted, pulling the first photo from the folder. This is a picture of the messages on your phone, where you tell your sister Linda that I'm a submissive old lady who paid for the vacation without asking questions." Robert took the photo and looked at it. The color drained from his face. "What is this, Patricia?" Patricia tried to snatch the photo from him, but I had already pulled out the second one. "This is another photo where you talked to Dr. Ruiz about a fake psychological report to justify my need for constant medical supervision." "Robert, your mom went through my phone. That's a violation of privacy," Patricia screamed, but she already sounded desperate. "Is this true, Patricia?" Robert's voice was broken. "Did you fake a medical report for my mom?" "For your own good, for our own good. Your mom needs special care and you're too busy to realize it." "Here is the third photo," I continued relentlessly. "Your messages with lawyer Martinez about the company's $200,000 debt and how you plan to sell my house to pay it off." Robert shot up as if he had been struck by lightning. $200,000, Patricia, you told me it was only $50,000. "Robert, calm down. We'll figure it out." "No," my son shouted for the first time in years. "Don't tell me to calm down. You've been lying to me about everything." But I wasn't finished yet. I pulled out the most devastating photos. "And these, Robert, are photos of your wife with her lover in luxury restaurants and hotels while you were working double shifts trying to save the business." The silence that followed was deafening. Robert took the photos with trembling hands. Photo after photo of Patricia kissing another man holding another man in situations that left no doubt. "Who is he?" Robert asked in a voice I had never heard before. A broken, empty voice. Patricia was crying, but they were no longer tears of manipulation. They were tears of terror because she knew it was all over. "Robert, I can explain." "Who is he?" my son yelled with all the fury accumulated from years of being deceived. He's someone who understands me, who supports me." "Your husband supported you. Your husband worked like a dog to give you the life you wanted." Then I dropped the final bomb, the one that would blow everything up. "Robert, here are the messages where Patricia plans to divorce you once they sell my house to go live in Costa Rica with this man and the money they took from our family." Robert read the messages in silence. I watched as tears fell onto the paper. "You were going to leave me?" he asked Patricia in the voice of a hurt child. "After everything I did for you, you were going to leave me with nothing. Robert, please, we can fix this." Maria, who had been silent the whole meeting, finally spoke. "Patricia, is all of this true?" "Mom, you knew about the plan, you helped me." And that's where Maria showed that she at least had some decency that her daughter lacked. "I knew you wanted Robert to manage his mom's finances. I didn't know there was a lover, that there were fake medical reports, that you had made me an accomplice in a scam." Patricia's family fell apart in 5 minutes. Robert was crying with rage and pain. Maria was yelling at her daughter for deceiving her. Patricia was crying for a forgiveness that was useless now, and I just sat there watching justice being served after years of humiliation. "Robert," I said softly, "your wife didn't just want to steal my house. She wanted to destroy you too. She wanted to leave you without a family, without money, and without a home." My son looked at me with tear-filled eyes, and for the first time in years, he was my little boy again. "Mom, forgive me. Forgive me for not believing you. Forgive me for letting her treat you like that." "There's nothing to forgive, son. A mother always protects her children, even if they don't realize it." Patricia tried one last time to save herself. "Robert, please, we can go to couples therapy. We can fix this." But Robert was no longer the manipulable man he had been for 5 years. "No, Patricia, it's over. I'm starting the divorce proceedings tomorrow." And when Patricia realized she had lost everything, her husband, her family, her perfect plan, and now faced years in prison for fraud, her last card was to threaten me with something that chilled my blood and changed the course of this entire story. Patricia's final threat came when she had nothing left to lose, when she realized Robert wasn't going to forgive her, that her own mother had disowned her, and that all the proof was in my hands. She showed her claws one last time. "Fine!" she screamed, in a voice I'd never heard, full of pure venom. "If you're going to destroy me, I have information that can destroy you too." Robert and I looked at her, not understanding what she was talking about. Robert, your precious company didn't go bankrupt because of bad luck. It went bankrupt because you and your partner were embezzling government money for 2 years. I have all the fake invoices you created." The world stopped. Robert turned as white as a sheet. "What are you talking about, Patricia?" She talked about the inflated government contracts, the projects they billed for, but never finished the materials they never bought, but reported as expenses. Robert slumped in his chair. I saw in his eyes that it was true. "Mom," he said in a broken voice, "I didn't know it was illegal. My partner told me everyone did it, that it was the only way to be competitive." Patricia smiled with pure evil. "Hope if you report me for fraud, I'll report Robert for corruption. Your perfect son will go to prison for 10 years. In that moment, I understood the endgame. Patricia had been collecting incriminating information on Robert from the beginning, not out of love, but as a life insurance policy for when this moment came. But she didn't know the woman she was dealing with. "Patricia," I said with a calmness that surprised even me, "you're right. Robert made serious mistakes. And you know what we're going to do about it." "What?" she asked, thinking she had won. "We are going to confess everything tomorrow. Robert is going to return every last dollar that doesn't belong to him. He's going to pay the fines. He's going to face the consequences of his actions, and he's going to rebuild his life honestly." Robert looked at me astonished. "Mom." "Because that's how my mother raised me, and that's how I raised you. You confess your mistakes, you fix them, and you learn from them. But you never, ever let them become chains for others to manipulate you." Patricia couldn't believe what she was hearing. "But you'll go to jail. You'll lose everything." "I'd rather have my son poor and honest than rich and corrupt, and I'd rather he pay for his mistakes with dignity than live his whole life being blackmailed by you." At that moment, Robert stood up, came over to me, and hugged me like he hadn't since he was a little boy. "You're right, Mom. We're going to fix everything, no matter the consequences." Patricia had lost her last card. Her blackmail didn't work because she didn't understand that for a real family, honesty is worth more than money. 3 months later, I'm here telling you this story from my small renovated house in the city. Robert kept his word. He confessed everything, returned the money, paid the fines, and spent 6 months in prison. But when he got out, he was truly free, no debts, no lies, no pending blackmail. Patricia faced charges for fraud, document forgery, and attempted swindling. She's serving a 5-year prison sentence. Her lover abandoned her as soon as he found out she had no more money to steal. Maria tearfully apologized to me. She didn't know the extent of what her daughter was planning. Now she comes to visit me on Sundays, and we have coffee while we talk about our grandchildren. Robert got divorced, sold what was left of his company, and now works as an engineer at an honest construction firm. He earns less money, but he sleeps peacefully every night. My grandchildren come to stay with me on weekends. Jacob already knows how to make cinnamon coffee like my grandmother taught me, and Sarah is learning to embroider while she tells me about school. But the most important thing I gained from all of this wasn't justice. It was something I had lost, without realizing it for years, my dignity. I learned that true love is not begged for, that respect is not negotiated, that at 67 or any age, a woman has the right to be treated for what she is, a valuable human being, not a burden to be tolerated. I learned that being good doesn't mean being submissive, that being loving doesn't mean accepting mistreatment, that being a grandmother doesn't mean becoming invisible. For years, I believed my job as a mother ended when Robert got married. Now I know that my job as a woman never ends, that I have the right to take up space, to have opinions, to be heard, to be respected. Not all women of my generation had the opportunities that young women have today. But that doesn't mean we have to settle for scraps of affection or crumbs of respect. If there's one thing I want you to take away from my story, it's this: it's never too late to stand up for yourself. It's never too late to set boundaries. It's never too late to say enough. And if you ever find yourself in a similar situation, remember the family that makes you feel small is not family. True family embraces you when you fall. They don't push you to make you fall harder. Now when I get up every morning in my little house, water my geraniums, prepare my coffee, and watch the sun rise over my garden, I know that this is my life. a life I built with hard work, defended with courage, and will live with dignity until my last day. Because a woman who has lived 67 years, who raised a son alone, who worked to exhaustion for her family, and who survived every betrayal life threw at her, deserves to live her golden years in peace with respect and surrounded only by true love. If this story touched your heart, if it made you think about the respect our elders deserve, or if you know someone who needs to hear this message, leave me a comment telling me where you're watching from. Give it a like if you believe all grandmothers in the world deserve to be treated with dignity, and subscribe to keep sharing real stories that teach us it's never too late to fight back. Because at the end of the day, the sweetest revenge isn't destroying those who hurt you. It's living so well that they regret ever underestimating you.